Intuitive eating is not a free-for-all, meaning you can just eat whatever you want, whenever you want. When I think back on my journey in 2018, I deleted MyFitnessPal. I was so done with dieting. I remember just looking at myself in the mirror and being like, this is not your path anymore. It doesn't matter if you spent 10 years of your life dieting, from meal plans to keto to intermittent fasting to tracking. Like, you were not meant to diet anymore. And I'm sure you've hit that point too, where you're just burnt out and you're exhausted. And maybe you got to a point where you're like, I never thought that I would ever stop dieting. But now you're like, I don't even want to diet anymore. Like, I'm so done with that. And so I deleted MyFitnessPal in 2018, like cold turkey. Like, I didn't like slowly do it. I'm just like, I don't need this in my life anymore. Delete the app. I'm done. I just want to eat normally. I just want to eat like a normal person again. And so I deleted MyFitnessPal, and I thought I was eating intuitively because I'm not using MyFitnessPal anymore. I'm not tracking anymore. But I was just eating really whatever I wanted. I was eating bagels and chocolate and cereal, like all the foods that I never previously allowed myself to have. I was eating those foods for almost every meal, every snack. Like, you know, breakfast, I'd have like a bagel with almond butter and then some cereal. And then for lunch, I would like have a bagel again with cereal. And then for snack, like all the foods that I never allowed myself to have, I was having way more often because technically I was quote unquote allowed to. But I remember feeling even more out of control, even more bloated, even more lethargic, not good in my body at all. And the reason why is this is not intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is not, oh, you can just eat whatever you want without taking into consideration how certain foods make you feel. Yes, of course, you can have the bagels and the chocolate and the cereal, but you also got to make sure that the foods that you're eating, you know, are a good source of protein and vegetables, because that's nourishment. That's self-love. It's not that I couldn't have bagels and cereal, but you also can't just eat those foods, right? And I'm sure you're like me, who you enjoy eating healthy. And I remember thinking like, this is not even health. Like, I'm not even getting in some protein or vegetables. And that's not who I actually was. But there was this period where I was like, oh, well, I deleted MyFitnessPal. I don't have to track it. And, you know, I remember like even things like cereal and bagels, like bagels would basically like take up so many carbs. And so I would never allow myself to have them when I was tracking. And so since I wasn't tracking, I'm like, well, I can eat it. And it's like, yes, you can, but also it's not just like, okay, all the foods that you never allowed yourself to have, just eat those foods. It's beyond that. It's also like, okay, let me get in my micronutrients. Let me get in my vegetables. Let me get in my protein. Yes, I can have the chocolate and not have to worry about tracking it. Yes, I can make myself the cereal bowl without having to track it. Like, that's freedom, but it's not just eating those foods whenever you want and not feeling good. The second thing is you actually got to build up trust. You got to build up trust around these foods. So it's not about, you know, buying all of the foods that you never allowed yourself to have. And well, fingers crossed, I hope I don't binge on them. Like, I'm just going to try really hard to not binge on them. You actually need to do things step by step. You got to rewire your thinking around these foods. Because if you are still seeing, let's say, for example, bagels as, oh my gosh, there's so much carbs. Oh, it's going to make me gain weight. Oh, like it's not a healthy food. It doesn't matter if you deleted MyFitnessPal and you stopped dieting. You still don't have a good relationship with this food. You got to rewire your thinking around this particular food. And so what happened for me is I deleted MyFitnessPal. And then I started eating bagels, but the whole time I was like, oh, you probably shouldn't be eating that. Or, oh, I'm doing bad this week. That's the problem. And so I needed to rewire my thinking around these foods, around bagels, carbs, sweets, chocolate. And because when you do that, when you do rewire your brain around these certain foods, this is when you can have a bagel, let's say for breakfast, and that's it. Like, enjoy your bagel and then go on. And then when it's lunchtime, you eat. Not, oh, well, I had a bagel this morning, and so, well, I'm just going to have some cereal for lunch, and might as well finish the bag of chocolate. It's like you don't see it as like this special food anymore. You actually have to do the work to rewire your thinking around these foods and build up trust. It's not about, I hope I don't binge. That's relying on like luck versus, no, I'm going to rewire my thinking around this food so I am confident that I can have that food in the house and not binge. Can you confidently say that you can bring any foods in the house and not binge on it? If not, you got to do the work to actually heal your relationship with food. And this is what I do with my clients. Now, to this day, I can literally bring any food in my house. And I am so confident that I will not binge. Why? I didn't just stop dieting. I actually did the work to heal. I did the work to heal my relationship with these foods. I shifted my thinking around foods, even around oats. At one point on my journey, I remember thinking to myself, like, oats, I shouldn't be having so much oats, or like sweet potato, like the carbs. And it's like, no, I shifted my relationship with those foods. And now I see like sweet potato and I see nourishment. I see nourishment. I look at it and like fuel for my workouts. Do you see what I mean by rewiring your brain? You have to rewire your brain, or else you're not going to be able to have control around food. You got to shift your thinking around food and build up that trust. And then number 3, you actually have to get back in tune with your hunger and fullness cues. You can't just delete MyFitnessPal and be like, okay, well, I hope I stop when I'm full. Deleting MyFitnessPal and no longer dieting doesn't make you connect to your fullness cues. You actually have to slow down, check in with your fullness, even mid-meal, so that you don't get to the end of your meal and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so stuffed. Right? Like, all of these things are so important. It doesn't matter if you order the most incredible Mediterranean pizza at the restaurant. You can leave one slice on your plate if you've eaten enough and you're full, without like this FOMO mentality or like clean your plate mentality. Because it's like, no, I actually not only feel my fullness, but I listen to it. I know you can feel your fullness, but you don't listen to it right now. And that's why you're still overeating. So you not only have to reconnect with hunger and fullness, but then you actually need to honor it, right? Because I remember getting into a point on my journey was like, yeah, I know I'm full, but just one more bite. Yeah, I know I'm full, but I just want one more slice of pizza. I'm not going to just leave one slice of pizza on my plate. But that's why I kept on overeating, and that's why you're still overeating. And so I needed to rewire my thinking around that as well too. So just saying that you're eating intuitively without actually doing the work to actually heal your relationship with food and listen to your body and trust yourself around all foods and get your hunger and fullness cues back is not actually intuitive eating. You're just not dieting, and there's a massive difference there, right? I know that you're not dieting anymore. You've deleted MyFitnessPal and you're quote unquote eating intuitively, but you're still thinking about food all day long, obsessing over calories and overeating because you're not actually eating intuitively. You haven't actually done the work to heal your relationship with food. You got to learn how to master intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is not just eat whatever you want. Intuitive eating is, well, I'm not dieting anymore. No, there's principles to intuitive eating. And this is exactly why I created my program, Eat Normally. So you can finally get rid of your food noise. Stop thinking about food from the time that you wake up until the time that you go to bed. Right now, you're having breakfast and you're already thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. And you're having lunch and you're like, well, what am I going to have for lunch? Well, let me think about what I had for breakfast first to decide what I should have for lunch. That's why you're thinking about food all day long. You have to feel safe to leave just a few bites on your plate when you're full, no matter how good the food is, because you don't have the scarcity mindset anymore. You want to feel confident ordering the pizza for dinner without getting into the, guilt mindset, the judgment, all or nothing mentality, and then binging when you get home, or forcing yourself to order the salad and then not even feeling satisfied and then thinking about, oh my God, what am I going to binge on when I get home? It's time to master intuitive eating. So you know exactly how much to eat without having to track, weigh, or measure your food. You feel confident with your food choices. You're so decisive. You're literally so decisive. You're so confident with your food choices. You can go on vacation without worrying about eating out at all meals. You can trust yourself to just eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. You can have the dates and peanut butter without having 25 of them. It's like, okay, I'm going to have a few and I feel satisfied and I can move on with my day. This is what it actually means to eat normally. I have never felt the best I ever have felt since actually learning how to properly eat intuitively. I've maintained my weight effortlessly. I've gotten healthier since eating intuitively. I've released weight naturally because I don't overeat anymore. I don't binge anymore. I'm not stressing about calories. And so food just feels effortless, and that's how it should feel for you. So it's amazing that you've deleted MyFitnessPal and you're no longer dieting. Like, that's fantastic. But now it's time to actually learn how to properly eat intuitively, heal your relationship, ditch the dieting mentality, stop seeing food as good versus bad, actually be able to have a meal without being like, okay, this is too many carbs. Oh, having a meal and forcing yourself to have protein and vegetables at every single one of your meals. Like, you have to get rid of that mentality. You have to rewire your thinking around food. And this is exactly what I'm going to support you with inside of Eat Normally. This program is included if you're inside of Conquer or my academy, or you can join it separately. So you can just message me, Eat Normally, and I'll send you all of the details. We kick off this week, literally tomorrow. So I'm so freaking excited. Message me, Eat Normally, and I'll send you all the details.